89% of entrepreneurs report that their brain feels quote unquote stuck in overdrive even when trying to rest. You know that feeling like I can't turn it off, I can't stop spiraling, and you start compensating with your phone or distractions? Well, here's the crazy part. Neuroscience shows that the first 30 minutes of your day literally rewires your brain's chemistry for better or for worse. And today's guest drops bombs. But one of the things that she nailed is most morning routines focus on productivity while ignoring brain chemistry. And so welcome back to the Mind of George show. It's the show for entrepreneurs who know that scaling their business isn't just about strategies and tactics. Nothing wrong with them, but you got to use them in the right order. It's about breaking free from outdated business models, crappy, sleazy marketing tactics, and truthfully, the mindset limitations that hold us back, all so that we can grow and scale our business with ease and impact. Because we master our mindset, we refine our customer journey, and we create marketing that actually aligns with who we are, who our customers are, and converts in the process. And today is a repeat guest because we have Dr. Romie, my homie. And if you listen to the first podcast, she called me out that butter chicken is not an Indian food and took me to church. And so now I run all food decisions by her. But Dr. Romie is an incredible friend, a woman I love, and an absolute powerhouse. She's a board certified neurologist. She's now the chief wellness officer at Great Wolf Resorts and the author of her book, The Busy Brain Cure, which became a bestseller. And it is incredibly powerful because she had to heal her own burnout through brain science. She now helps leaders and entrepreneurs understand how to boost your brain chemistry so that you can perform at your peak while also being present and connected. So think like superpower. And in this episode, we break down and get really, really deep into the science of optimizing your brain's morning chemistry, how to identify for you listening if you're high dopamine or low dopamine, and how to apply that to your day and to your life to rewire that brain of yours. Her incredible model for leaders across the board called the ABCD model of empathetic leadership, why empathy is one thing that AI can't replicate, and the surprising science of hope in workplace culture, which also means hope for yourself when you look at your business. And so there is so much in this episode. And whether I've said it or not, we have a doctor on the show telling us, and I will listen to everything she says because she's personally helped me. And so without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George show. And I'm really, really excited because we have a repeat guest. I brought my Indian auntie who checked me so hard about butter chicken, but Auntie Romie is back. And I'm so honored to have you. Butter chicken. And I even now have her saved in my phone with the Indian mama emoji. So like everything is right in the world. And I will forever, ever, never look at butter chicken the same. But I'm also going to say this for everybody listening. If you're an entrepreneur, which you are or want to be, and you've ever struggled with busy brain, can't fall asleep at night, can't turn your mind off, constantly feeling like you're not present, I'm highly going to recommend that after this episode, you go to the show notes and you listen to our first episode because Auntie Romie was here and she is overqualified as a doctor and medical director and just the queen of also being a scientific doctor queen, but also translating it in real language that we can resonate with and learn from. That episode was incredible. She has an incredible book called The Busy Brain Cure. And I'm really, really excited to have her back because we have some fun topics to talk about today. So Auntie, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Beta George, Indian auntie voice, which everybody hears on in the audiobook of The Busy Brain Cure. You're such a good beta. You helped me with my technology. So I won't get offended that you said butter chicken 17 times in my introduction.
I did it just for you. But I also love that now when you travel and you hear somebody reference butter chicken, that I'm the first one that you think about.
I do. You know, George, I want to say this for your listeners authentically. It is a heavy lift. Anybody knows when you have a traditionally published book and we hit the bestseller list. We did over 120 podcast interviews. Yours is one of the handful of interviews that stays in my heart. And it gave me joy when I knew you were on my calendar this week and so thrilled. And this is also new. Like Auntie is telling everybody, I'm so happy. Like you have a new partner in your life. And I got to say hi to her via FaceTime before we started this interview. Like nothing makes me happier when I reconnect and someone is blossoming personally and professionally.
Yeah. And I love it. And I like, truthfully, I told you before, I've probably told the story of you checking me on the podcast about butter chicken at least to 100 different people. I'm like, no, You have to know Dr. Romie, my homie. I'm like, she's my auntie, and she had no problem checking me. And forever, it's both ways, but it's our code word that if it
It
comes
is
up, we get to text each other because it's God's way of
amazing.
saying, hey, you too, get on the phone, check in, make sure you're
Yeah,
good because I love it as
I
well.
love it.
And truthfully, I also want to celebrate you because
Thank you.
you've been minus the book, and trust me, I know that grind of being a New York Times
Yeah.
bestseller. And I that's
Yes.
actually how I promoted that book. I did like a couple hundred podcasts. It's a grind. And you also just took a new position. You're the medical director at where now?
I am the chief wellness officer at Great Wolf Resort. So
Yes.
I guess the universe was testing if I could really survive busy brain. The same week, HarperCollins launched my book in the United States, Canada, and England. And 8 like other countries to follow. I also took a new position as chief wellness officer for Great Wolf Resort. So we have at this point 23, soon to be 23 lodges open, 13,000 employees. And my job is to use data driven solutions to keep what we call our employees, the pack, happy and healthy. So I spent the last year on book tour, simultaneously building this program that we just launched. And my third job is I'm a professional keynote speaker and I get hired by Fortune 500 companies to talk about the intersection of mental health, culture, workplace culture, and leadership. So that is what I've been busy doing since we had our butter chicken episode last year. And it's so good to be reconnected to you and your listeners. This is the thing about the Mind of George community. I got so many LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook direct messages from your community, and I loved hearing from all of you. So reach back out again because hopefully we're dropping some wisdom, dropping some knowledge, and a lot of giggles on this podcast again.
Well, I love it, and I'm gonna open a loop because I love with the Great Wolf, which by the way, like best indoor water parks, bring your kids. I'll just
Yeah.
personally say that as somebody who's been to one of them.
Thank you.
I love the intersection and what we're going to get into because of things that you now have experience in speaking to Fortune 500s and corporate culture and some big missing ingredients in the world right now and kind of dealing with the stress of the world. But I think the first place I want to start is because like we had such an incredible conversation on like busy brain, on like
Mhm.
how to navigate it, how to understand it, how to kind of lean into it. And before you and I hit record, we were talking about like boosting your brain in the morning
Yes.
and
Yes. The brain
how you
boost.
start your day and how you set yourself up for success. And I'm just the hack over here who's not a doctor who pretends to be one because I learn a lot of information on the internet and I just have a whole lot of self-confidence. But I also love that you're my like default get out of jail free card. I'm like, no, because doctor says and doctor says and doctor
Yes.
says.
I got
And
you,
so
beta.
I'm
Yes.
ready for Auntie to come in and kind of drop
Yes.
knowledge of like how
Yeah.
people with busy brains are in navigating the stress of the world and the stress of
Mhm.
entrepreneurship can really start to understand why it's so important to start your day right, but
Mhm.
also how to start your day and how it's influencing you both chemically, spiritually, emotionally to be able to win.
I do. Yeah. Last year we spent so much time talking about busy brain and burnout. And the number one question I got was, Dr. Romy, how do I set myself up for success that I don't get a busy brain or I don't fall into those habits once I've been through your 8-week protocol and healed? And of course, the brain scientist in me wanting to look for a brain shift, a biohack, all of that started to do the research. And here's this key thing that I call, how are you dosing your brain in the first 30 minutes from the time your eyes open? And that is key. The first 30 minutes of your morning. And George, most of the time people get that wrong because they count the first 30 minutes of their morning really when they're about 60 minutes in because they've they have two brain categories that we're going to break down. They're either what I call the, high dopamine level, or they are at a low dopamine level, low energy level when they wake up in the morning. And let's break both of those two down apart. And normally people think about their morning routine. It's long after they've woken up and already set their brain up for failure. And we want to avoid that. So that's what we're going to talk about today, dosing your brain. And that means the first 30 minutes from the time your eyes open, that you hear the alarm or you wake up naturally, what are you doing to boost four key hormones and chemicals in your brain: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins.
I love it. So where I'm already like, oh, I'm like so excited to put like a
Yeah.
bow on top of what you say. And for everybody listening, there's this cheeky part inside of me being like, I told you so. but I'm not there yet. I'm going to get there
Okay.
when we get into this,
Yes.
because I think the best place to start is, can you break down the difference between like low dopamine and
Mhm.
high dopamine? Because like what I imagine is like I wake up at like 4:30 and I do that with an alarm, but I'm like ready to go. But there was a season of my life where I woke up and it was like until 10 a.m. I felt like the lights were off and the shades were closed. And so
Mhm.
what is the difference, and like how can people
Let's talk
tell?
about both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that you right now fall into either category, because last year, please go back and listen to the previous episode. We're going to put the show note links in both of our blog posts for this. Is you were one of the 6% of people that had a score under 30. So
Yeah.
I already know you're in a neutral place. So I don't want people to normalize waking up at 4:30 is normal. Listen to last year's podcast. You're going to hear us breaking down Georgia's sleep cycle and getting the doctor onto seal of approval. But there's two things. Low dopamine is the alarm goes off and you're like, oh my God, I hate my life. And you hit snooze for the first of 17 times. And you need that snooze and that pressure that you're getting late for work or a meeting, or you're not going to get your kids to school on time, as that push to get you out of bed. And then you're moving really slow and you're low energy, you're low dopamine, the oxytocin and serotonin levels are low. There's just this no feeling of connection to self or others. Your mood is low. So all low, and endorphins, like, the pain receptors are getting stimulated, the pain of starting your day. So you're low energy and everything feels like a slow motion curse word. You open your phone and you look and see what time the day starts or how many emails are in your inbox, and you're already cursing. And it's just slow going torture from the get go. And you need caffeine to get going in the morning first thing, but you can't even get out of bed to get to the coffee pot or the energy drink, which when I said energy drink, you should just see George's face is squinting right now if you're watching the video. He's like, oh, auntie, don't say the curse word. But
Oh
that's
yeah.
the low dopamine state.
Okay. I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of people listening to this resonate with that. And then
Yeah.
how would you describe the high dopamine state?
Yeah. So the high dopamine state is, oh my God, I woke up and I'm really good. My alarm was set for 4:30. I got up at 4:27 because I kept looking at my alarm so I wouldn't oversleep 4:30. I am productive. My wardrobe was laid out and I'm going to move 100 miles a minute and get the whole house going. And you jump out of bed and you're looking at your phone screen and you've got your whole day scheduled and handled and you're rushing all around the house. Except the difference when you're rushing around the house is you're starting half a dozen activities and not finishing any of them. You've halfway done a facial and you realize you didn't unload the dishwasher and make the school's lunch, kids' lunch. You start the school lunch and you realize you still have your facial cream on your face you need to rub off. Like, then you walk out of the door maybe with two different shoes on, or you walk out with your house slippers, or one of your children inevitably forgot their instrument or piece of homework or something. That's the high dopamine state. You have faked yourself into thinking, I'm a highly productive morning. I've done everything. Check, check, check. But everything was half done.
I love that. Now I'm actually innately curious because we referenced my busy brain score, and like the one disclaimer I'll say is I also sleep like 8 hours a night and have the most like
Yes.
incredible deep sleep because I track
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
But is the ideal state to be in one of those, or is it more like kind of balanced? Like what is the
Yeah.
ideal state?
The ideal state is you and I both have a healthy busy brain score because we are disciplined to, like, in people in my personal life. I don't know about you. They almost think I'm OCD about my nighttime and morning rituals. And I'm just like, you got to be with auntie. You're going to follow these rules, like, or get out of my way. Right. So the key is that we have a system. Even with my cross country travel, I have a dedicated time to sleep and wake up every day that we naturally wake up at the time. And listen, I go from, you know, East Coast to West Coast or West Coast to London. Of course, I'm going to need an alarm, but I still wake up feeling at like a neutral point. And I'm not on edge and I'm not craving caffeine first thing to get going.
Hmm.
And that I feel in control of my mind. It's not in busy brain mode. And also of my body, that I can now start from that place of what I'm going to do in bed before I even kind of flip the covers off and put my feet on the ground.
Yeah, I love that. And that is that is a part where like I have no problem owning at this age. Like I want to be in bed before my 8-year-old son. Like I just want to be down and he's like, "Dad, we're going to bed already." I'm like, "I need you to sleep
Yes.
because daddy wants to sleep and I want my
Yes.
deep sleep score to be up." And
Yes.
it's so
Yeah.
interesting too because like I'm a part owner in a company actually since we
Mhm.
talked called Rebalance where
Ah, congratulations. Tell Auntie about it. Oh my God,
yeah.
I want to hear this.
And I actually feel like you would love this company because we created a system. They created a system. I got luckily brought into it where instead of supplementation or having a unhealthy relationship with melatonin, what we tell everybody is like a great night's sleep starts in the morning is the first thing that we tell everybody. And really, it's a cortisol regulation
Mhm.
supplement, and it's not a pill, it's a
Mm.
lozenge for direct line delivery into your
Mm.
bloodstream. But it's like starting your morning right. And then in the afternoon, coming in again. And then the nighttime one is letting it
I'm
dissolve and
I'm
preparing your
looking forward
body.
to reading the ingredients. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And you're right. You and I are on the same brainwave. I don't use melatonin. It's actually harmful and we discussed that on the last podcast episode. We regulate people's circadian rhythm when they have a busy brain and insomnia with 5-HTP. And if they can't use that, L-theanine and magnesium glycinate. So we avoid melatonin really unless as a neurologist, I'll say this is if someone's had a sleep study and they fit like REM sleep disorder, like night terrors, then they get melatonin. But like you really have to have a sleep doctor look at that. And so, aside from that, I agree with you. And
Yeah.
when you don't regulate your dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, that will kick off that acute stress hormone response. So I'm even back at the foundational hormonal levels of before your cortisol goes wonky.
Yeah, I love it because actually,
Mhm.
even with the sleep one, we have a melatonin free one because one of the things we tell everybody, like, there's this misnomer, and I see this in entrepreneurs all the time, like, oh, I just take melatonin to sleep. I'm like, melatonin is not designed to put you to sleep. Even by
Yeah,
design, it's supposed to get your body into a state to prepare, but then you're in blue
regular.
light and you're boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, and so it
It
knocks you a
is.
mile.
And if you take melatonin more than 10 to 14 days, you're in the feedback loop in your brain. You're telling it, I don't need to produce melatonin or serotonin naturally. The body is getting enough. And so you're actually doing long-term harm. And I think we discussed this in the last podcast episode, is that for men, chronic use of melatonin can affect human growth hormone, which is critical for all of the male hormones, thyroid, testosterone, DHEA, and it can disrupt estrogen in women. And
Mhm.
so, no, like long term, no use. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
1,000%. So I
Yeah.
want to ask because you joked about this, but the amount of people that I know, and this used to be me, of like waking up and within like an hour it's caffeine, it's caffeine, it's caffeine, and caffeine. And from what I know, the biggest thing is that like the adenosine in our bodies, basically it stunts that and it starts to kick off the reverse of what we want. And it's like almost like a precursor for adrenal fatigue, if I remember, because it starts to suppress
I
and then
think it depends. It depends if someone has adrenal fatigue. Why we
mm,
say in an ideal state, people like you and I who wake up ready to go, I typically say no caffeine for the first 60 or 90 minutes because it naturally elevates your cortisol levels, your stress hormone levels, because of the pathway that you mentioned. Caffeine binds to the adenosine receptors in the brain, which is a good thing. It helps focus. But a secondary effect is that cortisol boost. And you don't want that first thing in the morning because that will drop someone's blood sugar, make them have a more busy brain. And so there's a lot of ideal reasons. And that's why I feel strongly, and I think you and I talked about this last time, all of the pre-workout formulas that people use, they get up early, they go to the gym, they go to CrossFit, they go do whatever, have caffeine in it. And I'm not really a fan of
yeah,
people taking caffeine. And that's another topic we can get to because I want to handle the dopamine thing. So
yeah, yeah.
ideally, dosing in the morning, you shouldn't be having caffeine in the first 30 minutes for sure.
Hmm.
But hydrating with water, excellent. With lemon water, with some kind of hydration salts. And I'm going to go through the pick two things to dose your brain in the morning. And we're going to go through the three categories of where to choose those two things from. And then
Well,
I'm going
you
to tell you on a spiritual level how I dose my mornings.
yeah.
That's been helping me because I'm in 1 to 4 cities a week.
Yeah, and you'll be proud of
Mhm.
me You'll be proud of me. I did a 7-day water fast, like 10 weeks ago, just because God put it on my heart. And I also cut out caffeine, and I don't have it at all now. And I feel amazing. And I didn't even have like an issue with it, but now I'm like, nope, it's out. So it's like out. So you'll be proud of me.
I am proud Dr. Auntie moment of George.
Yeah.
And thank you just so for open-heartedly sharing that with your audience. And now my audience is going to hear this too, because so many people can relate to that.
Yeah. And it was actually really, really interesting because like I didn't plan on doing this fast. And by the way, the autophagy, whole other podcast, but like incredible what happened in
Yes.
my body and my energy levels and the reset
Yay.
and all of that. But I swore as like a former Marine, and it was like part of my morning ritual. And I'm like, how am I going to go without it? And by like day 3, I was like, I don't need it or want it. And then all of a sudden I had all this time back, and now my body
Wow.
feels so, because I've even talked to people about adenosine. I'm like, and this is why you get an
Hmm.
afternoon crash, because it bonds to the receptors, it falls off, and then you have this
Hmm.
energy crash. And now it's like I just have this sustained energy dialed in with my sleep. So
That is so beautiful.
I was the guy who was like a 3 Americano a day kind of guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I need my coffee. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I need water, I need
Yeah.
electrolytes, and I
Hmm.
feel so much better.
And we feel better. And, I'm a big proponent just for longevity and brain and dosing in the morning that if you're going to have caffeine, really let's try green tea, matcha, um, organic coffee, please, without the mold.
Without the mold. Thank you, doctor.
Yes,
Yes.
I really want to, kind of double click on that. What I really want people to avoid doing is the synthetic caffeine that is in the pre-workout powders or that is in the energy drinks. And there are hundreds because our employees at Great Wolf or when I'm speaking, I can't keep up with the number of energy drinks that are on the market. They'll be like, but this one says it's clean and organic. No, it's still synthetic. Like if you want caffeine, get it from the actual source of green tea, matcha, a black tea,
Mhm.
or organic coffee. And
Yeah.
ideally, it's so hard with the teas. A lot of us don't have this time. And when I'm traveling, I can't travel with the tea kettle and loose leaf tea because of the plastic. So use the cloth bag tea bags
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's
Hmm.
a whole other podcast on this, but
Hmm.
I've talked about this on the podcast before. And I'm like, moldy coffee, because the mycotoxins, like they also
Yes.
like destroy your brain. And like,
Yeah. And
if you
gut
want to learn
health. Yeah.
gut health, like all of it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Perfect.
there's our soapbox moment of like, I used to be that guy,
Soapbox.
and
It is.
now I
Yes.
feel incredible. And like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
energy that I have at this age
Hmm.
compared to what I had when I was living on caffeine, like
Yeah.
there's hope on the other side, and it's just your
Yeah.
body needs some love. And so I
Agree.
want to I want to dive into like the 30 minutes, like the idea, like how
Yes.
do we boost our
Ideal 30
morning?
minutes in the
Yeah,
morning. Yeah.
give it to
Uh,
us.
I mean, most people don't have the schedule I do where I'm on an airplane and in a hotel room. So, the number one recommendation from chapter 11 of the Busy Brain Cure was please buy yourself a traditional alarm clock and don't use your mobile phone as an alarm clock. So, that's the first temptation not to pick up and scroll and swipe and check a schedule or email inbox and elevate the stress hormone levels and make your life even worse. So, number one, do that. Number two, when you first get up, I say pick two things because I'm all about keeping it simple that you're going to do to dose your brain that actually is going to naturally create a positive mindset by dosing it, elevating dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins in the brain. So we break it down into three categories. What can you do for your physical body? What could you do for your mental health? And what could you do spiritually?
Mm.
And so, physical health, if you are a low dopamine person, you probably aren't going to feel great if you have to get up and go to the gym first thing in the morning. And what I actually say is, as you're getting the covers off the bed and off of you and onto the bed, and before you put your feet on the floor, is to do 3 or 4 quick yoga spinal stretches. Hug your knees to your chest, bring your knees to the right, to the left side, and just hold and breathe and stretch that. Like connect your brain and your body and take 3 deep breaths. It's that simple. It takes a few minutes. You're literally waking up your body and in your spine, spiritually, you're waking yourself up and physically and mentally. And then for the low dopamine folks, I definitely will say your second tip I would say is the hydration piece is
Mhm.
get up and go to the kitchen and have water with either squeezed lemon in it or hydrate your pick your favorite hydration salts and do that. I think that is something you could easily do. And then to boost your energy, I say pick 3 or 4 energizing songs. Please don't pick the sad, I lost my lover country music song. No, pick 3 or 4 boosting songs and switch those songs out every week, because otherwise your brain doesn't get the dopamine hit and high from like a song that boosts it. Like, yes. And so this morning I'm trying to remember which one I listened. Oh, I listened to a Bhangra song. Oh, I'm going to send you a text message with my
Okay.
favorite Bhangra song I'm listening to. It's a Punjabi dance. So when we get together with Kate to have
I'm
Indian
in.
food, I'm also going to teach you Bhangra. Yes. Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
Okay, so I have a question about that, and this is more so for those low dopamine people, and just
Hmm.
curious on your thoughts too, because like I live in Montana, so we just changed the clocks again, so we're back to like not light till like 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
So I'm a
Hmm.
big proponent for red light.
Hmm.
How's
Love
red
it.
light fit into this?
Completely wonderful is one of the things that we have on our list of things to do is to go out and get natural sunlight. And but we find, to your point, majority of us have to wake up well before sunrise. And so I am a big proponent. I use the Lume box, Lume box, and I'm not a brand advocate. I don't have
Yep,
a code or affiliate as a red light because it's small and I can travel with it. But any kind of red light therapy is also the same as the light box therapies for seasonal affective disorder. I think everyone could use that if you wake up before the sunrise.
I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
And also on the morning drink, that's another big thing that I really leaned into is I for years used apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, and lemon
Hmm. Hmm.
in water to where my friends
Hmm.
went and made packets of it. It's called Your Routine. I love it. But I found personally, like now, like the first thing I wake up is I put the shaker bottle in the fridge so the water is cold. And like I get up, I red light, I put that in the thing. And before I even
Amazing.
like go to the gym or do anything, like I just chug like 30 to 40 ounces of water with my electrolytes and I feel amazing.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah.
And you
So
don't even need 30, 40. I'm a big hydrator, so I'll do 20 to 30 ounces in the morning. Just even one glass is enough to like give you that oxytocin serotonin boost of hydration, and it's like giving you an endorphin high too, because it's like your body is thirsty and you're quenching it like spiritually and mentally. And of course get up and pray and meditate, these are all things you can do. And if you're brushing your teeth, like recite a positive mantra or affirmations. If that's, you do cold water that suits your dosha type. I need room temperature or hot
mhm.
water first thing in the morning. So you have to be careful with that too. Cold water can sometimes be difficult on the low dopamine folks in the morning.
You know, it's so funny. I used to have an issue when I had adrenal fatigue a long time
Hmm.
ago. I
Hmm.
couldn't do cold water.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to do room temp water, and now I
Or
like
hot
crave
water.
cold water or hot
Yeah.
water, but now I like crave it. And I also
Now you
want
crave.
to,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I also, because I loved how you said this for low dopamine people, like the 3 buckets of like the physical, the
Mental
mental,
and
and the
spiritual.
spiritual.
Hmm.
And I think for everybody listening, like the one note that I'd make is like it's consistency. It's adding some level of structure to this, but I love
Hmm.
the like pick two. Are you
Pick two.
saying pick two in each category or pick two
No,
from those
pick two
three?
total. Pick two total. Make it simple because we're all busy professionals and entrepreneurs. Pick two. You know, so we're giving you a list of pick something that's good for your mental health, writing down or saying out loud your gratitude, the music, listening to music. Pick something spiritually. If that, I'm a praying, meditating person. So that typically will happen after my morning stretches and hydration. Like, just pick any two for 20 minutes that is not involving your phone or emails.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. And just because I know people like hearing, like I have it to the point. So I don't, and you can be mad at me. I do use my phone as an alarm, but I put it on the other side of the room and
Okay.
I pick a
Okay.
different song every
Oh,
week to wake me up to.
I
So when
love
it
it.
goes off, like I get up and then
Yes.
I literally wake up. I turn on just a bright little reading light and I read a verse from my Bible.
Ah,
And then I take that because it takes me about a minute. And then I sit in front of my red light and I
yeah.
pray in front of the red
I
light
love
for
that.
like 5 minutes while
I
I
love
drink
that.
my water. And it
Yes.
feels like it feels like I'm doing so much, but I'm actually doing so little, but I feel so energized. And I do all
It,
that like
it
before
is.
I go out.
And it sounds like a lot, but you're right. I'm kind of the same. I get up and I do the stretches, and my phone, I turn on a Sufi mantra that I listen to, and I hug my body and I just recite the mantras and like, and then hydrate like that. Enough on the road is, my ritual when I'm at home is I honor five elements of fire, water, air, land, and ether or love. And so when I'm home, it's still under 30 minutes, but it feels very beautiful and ritualistic.
Mhm.
So earth, I have cacao in the morning. I got that from the indigenous people, the Mayan Incan tribe, like pure cacao from Mexico. I'm so love that organic. Water, obviously drinking and hydrating my water, and I recite positive mantra into it. Like, I am healthy. I am focused today. I am sharing love today, like into the water. Fire, I light incense in the home and at the altar. And what was the other one that
Earth.
air, the deep
Oh, yeah.
breaths, earth was
Yep.
cacao, and then love is that Sufi mantra and praying and
Mm.
meditating. So I follow the traditional Eastern wisdom and the five elements, but that just feels like it got complex. That's why I break it down of do something for your physical body, do something for your mental health or your spiritual health. Pick two from any of those categories and do those two things. Anything but work and phone.
Yeah, and I just to add a note before we go to high dopamine, I think and I'm a big proponent on environmental design and like setting
Mhm.
myself up to win. So like as much as I love getting up early, like there's days where I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm not a Marine anymore, but I also love how I feel and with my structure. So like the night before, like my water and electrolytes go out, my shoes, my clothes, they're all laid out. And
Yes.
even on my phone, because I love iPhones, I have the do not disturb, but it doesn't turn off until 3 hours after I'm awake. So nothing comes through my phone. So there's no
Amazing.
notifications, there's no anything. And so I think
Amazing.
for everybody here listening to, I think one of the best things you can do is also utilize your environment to your benefit. And so like my red light is literally 6 inches away from my bed to where like when I'm on the floor and the bed is made, I push one button and it turns on and it's right there. And so there's no effort. There's not like I have to go do it or prep. So I think like environmental design, as you're thinking through these two or three things that you're going to do, is setting your environment that's conducive that almost makes you want to do it, or you don't have to think your way into doing it, especially
Yes.
if you're one of the low dopamine people.
Exactly. And I think low or high dopamine and what you explained is part of the brain shift protocol for the busy brain cure is what are the 30 minutes you're doing before you go to bed that don't involve screens? And that's a great time that most high achieving people will be like, let me set myself up and my family for success for the next day and let me put everything out that I'm going to need.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, especially having an 8-year-old, I do as much as I can the night before. I'm like,
Yes.
clothes are out, his lunch is made,
Yes.
I'm buying time in the morning. And so
Yes.
now for high dopamine people, is it
Yes.
the
High
same or
dopamine
is it
people.
different?
It's same thing. I want you to pick two things from those categories, but you need to do things that aren't amping you up even more. So it's for you compared to low dopamine, the high dopamine people, the revved up. And if you have a busy brain score, that's between 30 to 60. You're probably one of the high dopamine people. After 60, you're in burnout and you start to get to low dopamine, is just an indicator. We'll put a link to the busy brain test. It's for free here. But what we know for high dopamine people is really kind of avoid the caffeine. You are just setting yourself up for failure in the morning. Even the natural sources we just discussed, right? High dopamine people, it's actually a somewhat more of a calming ritual. So if music is key, this is the people that I want to pick the sound healing music, the mantras, like I think of the Buddhist or Hindu mantras that you often hear in yoga classes. People have them and they've become like Deva Premal's music evergreen. I want you to pick something classical music, pick something like that in the morning that brings you a little bit into a state of flow of what you're hearing for your senses. Hydration is still key here. And I think the thing is to be very rigid with what you allow yourself to do in the morning and what you don't, because high dopamine people, everything feels urgent. The I forgot the clothes in the dryer, I need to unload the dishwasher, and those are things that really don't have to be done first thing in the morning. So I think they have to be most mindful. High dopamine people, in the first 30 minutes of the day, most people aren't going to brush their teeth, get their clothes on, and get to the gym. But high dopamine people are people that we put through cardio and getting your heart rate up in the morning if they have the time.
I love that. So with the high dopamine people, the cardio is basically a place to put that energy
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then help them kind of come to
And
center.
maybe and redirect it, right? So
Yeah.
that you're switching from the wanting an acute dopamine hit of like hitting something on social media or your to-do list on your Slack channel first thing in the morning to it becomes your sustained dopamine during the day from the exercise, and you're releasing the natural endorphins.
I
Mhm.
love that.
So
Okay,
you're on high
cool. So
alert, and
basically,
I want to just make you. I want to bring both people to neutral.
yeah,
Hmm.
which I love that. Like if you're a
Hmm.
low dopamine, we're going to turn the light up, and if you're a high
Yes.
dopamine, we're going to turn the light
Yeah.
down a little bit, so we
I
know where
love
to
that
direct
theory.
it and to
Yes.
put it.
Yeah.
Right? It
Hmm.
fits in the lighthouse theme, right? Everything we do
It
is
does.
everything we do is a lighthouse, and I actually think that this is a really good spot to transition because I think about setting yourself up and like boosting your brain and setting this environment. Like I say to people all the time is like, if you pick up your phone as the first thing you do, you're letting the world dictate how you show up and who you are for that day. But when you follow
Hmm.
this, you're making a
Hmm.
choice to be able to go in a clear state with groundedness and
And your
some
brain.
intention, face
Yeah.
the world in your brain, which then brings me to the
Mhm.
second point of this, which I'm excited to talk about, which is how to take this and navigate a world that we live in right now, which is high stress and red alert sometimes. And there's so many things that people are facing that end up knocking them out of center or pulling them out. And
Yeah.
it starts with your morning. But one of the things that you and I were talking about was empathy, right? And
Hmm.
this is a big,
Yeah.
big topic for you. And so I'd kind
Big
of love to
topic.
hear your thoughts on that.
It is. George, the one thing that's happened since you and I talked last year is we know now that the world is moving at a rapid pace of change and highly volatile. And people are really polarized, and there are things that are turning everyone's lives upside down, from the economy to way business is done. Like, I don't want you or I to spiritually bypass the hard things that are happening in life. And since you and I met, I think we were talking about my new role at Great Wolf Resorts. It had me deep in the research of what do you do to create a positive workplace culture in today's highly polarized, highly volatile work and news global environment? It doesn't matter whether you're in the United States or globally, both of us have global audiences. It's a hard time. And we looked at one key thing is that people need to feel like they're cared for, and that caring can be delivered through empathy. And if I had to tell every other entrepreneur that is listening to your podcast or professional that is listening to this recording that is in my circle, it is first set your brain to the right station in the morning, those first 20 to 30 minutes. And then that sets you up that you were empathetic and compassionate to yourself so that you're doing empathy for others. And empathy is really deeply means that I am in my feelings and I am concerned about your feelings. Sympathy is you give me bad news, George, and I feel pity for you. I feel sorry for you. I say, I'm so sorry that bad thing happened. Empathy is I'm sitting here listening with my heart, not with my brain, and allowing a psychologically safe place for you to share and understanding you and helping you process your feelings. That is empathy. And if all we did was stop and listen, that is all people need. And literally, I'm going to all of our teams and training our director, managers, and supervisors on empathetic listening and how in 3 minutes you can make a caring connection with another employee. And I don't care if you're a solo entrepreneur and you have a few contractors or VA, or you are a startup and you are in a series, getting your investors, or wherever you are as an entrepreneur. Every interaction you have in the day is an opportunity to show empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the key today in today's success, in today's world. Everything else is chat GPT.
1,000%. And I'm going to hit this because I want you to unpack how to do this in 3 minutes. Because
Mm-hmm.
for people listening that are entrepreneurs, I'm seeing this more so in the coaching world than anything. Coaching, consulting, courses, helping people, where you go back 2 years and back, people would buy information. They would
Mm-hmm.
buy a course, they'd come to your event. And the thing that we're seeing in everybody that I coach and everybody I consult is there's one line of demarcation where someone's struggling and somebody's thriving right now. And the
Mm.
thriving line is helping with integration and empathy. It's
Ooh,
requiring connection because
fascinating.
people have been so burned
Yeah.
and so transacted with, and no one's no longer interested in just collecting information. And even with the stress of the world,
Hmm.
there's this calling of like, I need this to work, but I also need to feel supported in this. Like one of my clients, right off the top of my head, like most of their revenue came from running big masterminds, and it was full, 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 full. In the last 9 to 12 months, everyone that was in that mastermind shifted to one-on-one coaching. It like whoosh, all the way over. And now there's more of a demand because like, I want to know that you feel like I feel, or you can understand my situation, or you can help tailor it to me. And I love the way that you said it.
Yeah.
Empathy is the number one tool because everything
Empathy.
else is
Yeah.
chat GPT.
It
And
is. Yes. Yes. And people, if people haven't ventured into AI, they're not stupid and they know that isn't the voice of George or Romie, you know? When I got busy, we had chat gpt. My team had trained a Romie bot to write captions of social media, and we could see the engagement going down. And if I would take over and write something, even if it was grammatically incorrect or I missed a point, it would get more engagement. Just people feel that empathy and that authenticity and care. So empathy is really being with someone's feelings and not taking
so,
action. Hmm. And
mhm. It
compassion.
froze for a minute for me. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay. And
Yep.
compassion is
Compassion.
empathy in action. So, step
Yes.
1 is empathy and listening and helping someone feel their feelings and acknowledging their feelings. That's in 3 minutes. And compassion is that empathy in action. So I'm going to use the model of the coach because people have come to both of people come to me for speaking, coaching, or building their back office for a successful speaking business. They come to you for various business ideas, right? I find I have to empathetically listen because my business brain is going a mile a minute for that person. Like, we need to change the title of your keynote. We need to change the talking points. I need to give you to a graphic designer. We need to set up your back of office. Like, they don't need that. They need me to listen with empathy and be like, George, thank you for telling me how you're feeling about your keynote speaking. What I'm hearing is you're frustrated that you're not getting booked. And thank you for sharing. And then invite action. Like, do you want me to give you some points, or is it just helpful if I listen and commiserate with, like, I understand? And if they want it, it's with compassion, because the old way of coaching or consulting was, okay, you do an intake form. Here are the 5 things that are wrong. Here are my 3 deliverables and how much it's going to cost. You're not going to get hired. It is as simple as this one phrase: I am here and I care.
Hmm.
I am here and I care, and really exuding that. So, to go back to the first part of this podcast, if I'm not caring for my brain and my body and my spirit, it shows. And I can just blind be like, George, I'm here and I care. And it's just, I'm off, and
Hmm.
but when we're dosed properly, and this takes more oxytocin and serotonin, and emotional intelligence, is to sit there and allow someone to use their feeling words and coach them to use their feeling words when someone says, I'm good, I'm bad. And so that's the empathy. And that is a key component of empathetic leadership: is feelings, empathetic listening, empathetic feedback, how to bring empathy into a sales cycle. Like, this is what I'm breaking down in all my leadership keynote talks right now.
Oh, I love it. I have 2 things to say, and one I can't wait to hear your thoughts on. Um, but I even realized like there was a phase in coaching because I've been coaching for 15 years where everybody just wanted statements and directions. And the
Hmm.
easiest way for everybody listening to this now that I would say is that you have to replace statements with questions and space. Questions and space. Questions and space.
So
Because
well said. So well said. I'm going to borrow that and quote you on it, and
please,
send people this podcast episode: questions and give space. Yeah.
questions
And
and
breathe.
space. And
Yeah.
that is
Hmm.
probably the most powerful because just like you, and I even did the Clifford Strengths assessment yesterday for a
Hmm.
friend so she could read it. And she's like, oh man, you've really flexed this muscle because you're thinking about logic and developing models for them and boom, boom, boom. And I was like, yeah, but my message is only as effective as their ability to hear it, understand it, and implement it. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if I know somebody's next 50 steps
Yes.
if they don't find it on their own or they don't feel it on their
Yes.
own. And that
Yeah.
space is huge. And even when you were talking about like empathetic listening is really, if you've ever done marriage work and you know of imago dialogue, it's really repeating back what you hear. If you do it in Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, what it's called is mirroring and labeling. And what you're triggering in that other person is saying, I see you, I
Yeah.
hear you, I
Yeah.
understand. And the part that I would love your thoughts on is in this leadership piece, two parts to this. In this leadership piece, what I found to be true is that you can only meet someone to the depth of where you've met yourself when it comes to empathy.
That is so proud. That is profound. Yes. And also, if you're talking to someone who is deeply within themselves and they hold space for you, even if they are the ones telling you a problem, I think that person can model it for you only if you have an open heart. I think anybody can learn empathetic listening because everyone remembers someone that deeply cared for them. And they remember moments when they felt unheard. And I use this simple model. One is your model that you were just discussing. That's a little bit more active listening, a little different than empathetic listening, because in active listening, people tend to parrot back a fact they heard. Oh, so
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing is you don't have enough speaking leads compared to last year, rather than what I'm hearing you're feeling is worried of where your lead generation system stands compared to where you felt it should be, right? There's a
Mm,
very big difference there. And so that's something we do in our training. So
love
I
that distinction.
quickly, we
Love that.
teach people the ABCD model. A is I'm going to acknowledge who I'm talking to, not out loud, that I'm getting centered and breathing myself to remember George's mind and face and funny things we both share together before I even talk to you, so that I'm getting out of my mind the 4 meetings I have after I talk to you. Then breathing, we do the deep grounding breath, just the simple 3 breaths. Find your feet, find your head, find your heart, and anchor in how I'm feeling. Then do the caring communication, which is posture should be matching: eyes, heart, knees, and feet. And then the open-ended question, and that we give like our leaders open-ended questions to ask their pack members or employees based on what's going on. And then D is delicately thanking someone, like, just thank you so much for telling me how upset you are with you know your coaching practice, or how your mastermind has shifted to coaching. And that's it. Not offering solution.
I'm
And
so
even
glad that you shared that distinction.
and offer a solution or compassion, the empathy and action on the next visit. Literally saying, George, thank you for sharing this. I'm going to sit with everything you've told me and come back with a plan and ideas for you. But is there anything else you were feeling that you didn't tell me? Like, literally, that's it.
I love that distinction, and I'm so glad that you shared that because I can see in the way that I described it, that's the part that was missing. So thank you for that distinction on
Mm-hmm.
empathetic
Mm-hmm.
listening.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that I wanted to ask you is, and you referenced this earlier, is how does somebody turn that empathy to themselves so they can be able to use empathetic listening to somebody in front of them?
Yeah. I think in the first thing in the morning, it goes back to when you're dosing yourself for the oxytocin and serotonin. When I'm brushing my teeth, when I wake up in the morning, how am I feeling about my body today? How am I feeling about my schedule today? And being okay with the feelings. Like, I'm worried about everything I have to do, and I'm not in my home business studio, and I'm with the hotel Wi-Fi. Like, I'm worried. Like, acknowledging that, I think that's just in your morning routine. But when you start to dose yourself in the morning, it is a form of self-love, self-compassion, self-empathy, because I'm asking myself how I'm feeling. And then if I'm doing those 2 rituals that get your morning going that are not related to phone or work, that is then self-compassion,
I
empathy in action.
I love that. I also love empathy in action because
Mhm.
I want to highlight something you just said because you said it in passing and I think it's so big. Acknowledging something doesn't make it go away, but it current states you to where it's no longer driving or distracting you.
Amen to that. Amen.
And
Yes.
it's like the first it's the first step where
Name it. Yeah, name it.
we
Name
get
your
to name
feelings.
it. We get to
Mhm,
label it. We
mhm.
also get to be humans.
Amen to that. We don't have to be that positive person on social media or podcasts all the time, toxic positivity, or we don't have to be in victim mode where we're collecting everybody's trauma that matches my trauma and we're in a
Mhm,
community of a victim pool. Like we get to
mhm.
just show up every place in between, all the nuanced little like crooks and crannies. Now English is my third language. Did I use that phrase right? Crooks and crannies. What is it?
Nooks and crannies. Nooks and
Nooks and
crannies.
crannies. See, this is something you can make fun of me. I said crooks and crannies.
I think crooks is like having everybody hijack your trauma and jumping in with it. So I'll take crooks and
Okay.
crannies too.
Crooks and crannies. Thank you. You're so kind. Yes, all those phrases I always get wrong, but nooks and crannies. And we get to go in there and just be that person. And then it releases. If you let someone talk about what they're angry about that happened at work, 90 seconds to 3 minutes, they would have processed it.
That's the thing. And this was years ago, but I had somebody on my podcast and they like referenced this study and they were talking about human feelings. And I like have facilitated breath work
Mhm.
and still do that. But the craziest thing was, and I didn't remember to ask, but he said basically the human body can only feel an emotion for about 90 seconds. And
Mhm.
everything
Mhm.
that follows is the story that we tell ourselves about it.
90 seconds to 3 minutes. It will
Okay.
go on longer if you're jumping on the trauma train. Like, girl, spill the tea. Tell me more. What really happened? No, they did not say that to you at work. I'm pissed for you. That's what most coaches do. I did it in a very exaggerated manner, so people will do that. But most coaches think being heard means I'm going to jump and dump into your feelings. I would be angry too if that happened. No. Thank you for sharing you're angry. I understand. You are safe and right to feel angry. Like there's a difference between prolonging the story or
Mm-hmm.
allowing someone to just seep it out themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah.
Mhm,
It's so, I mean, even to your point earlier, like I coach, most of my work is coaching people one-on-one. It's what I love more than anything. But if I was to share a recording of a 1 hour coaching call, the first 30 minutes of us is like sharing life and modeling and like getting into tears and removing things that were coming up that day. And then it's like 20 minutes of strategy. And then they like go
mhm.
take over the moon
Yeah,
because there's things that you're allowed to process in. And like you seeing
absolutely.
this at Great Wolf with teams, but even everywhere is like because of
Mhm,
ChatGPT and the disconnection and all the stuff that happens on the internet, like
mhm,
what people want to know is like, am I safe? And logic doesn't make somebody feel
mhm.
safe.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't anymore. Data dumping and all of that. And yeah,
And so
it,
I think it's so important. And I even love, by the way, I love that ABCD model.
mhm.
Totally giving credit to Auntie Romie on this one,
Thank you.
but
I created that. That is part of our empathetic listening workshop and things that I do in my keynote. So thank you. Yeah, the ABCD one.
it is so good. And I'm going to repeat it back to everybody listening because like even you talking about like the podcast, like I've had 4 podcasts today, but like I don't know what's next. And I'm like, oh,
Mhm,
but before I get on, I prep myself and I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm talking to my homie Romie. I got this going on. And I love to acknowledge the person, but internally, like prep your state and then breathe and come into your body. Like be
mhm.
here, not in your
And be
head.
into your own feelings.
Yes.
Mhm,
Yes. I love that. And then caring connection, which is this
mhm,
empathy and empathetic
mhm,
listening.
mhm,
And then in that same lens as after you listen, or you're in that acknowledgement, or you're in that evolution, that you like delicately thank them. Like
mhm,
take
mhm,
the time and compassion and care and communication
mhm,
to let it go for more than 3 seconds because like the
mhm.
world is busy enough and it's transactional enough and it's the difference between like a passing good morning or looking
Yeah,
somebody in the eyeballs and saying like wow, thank you so much for
yeah,
sharing,
it is.
like thank you
S
for so much for
It
being
is.
here.
And I will tell you, I try that with my team members at the Brain Shift Institute, but at Great Wolf, like when I go to the lodge, I don't just visit the leadership, I visit all of our frontline pack as well. And HR, the general manager, will be walking, going, how did you figure that out about that employee? You just met them. Because in 30 seconds to 3 minutes, people are pouring what is happening in their lives or at work to me. because I prepare myself to empathetic listening. And
Mhm.
then I ground myself at the beginning, at the end of the day, hydrate well, sleep well, because I'm taking on a lot of people's energy, right? But
Mhm.
I've been trained to do this, but anyone can do this. And that's that empathetic listening. So yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
and the one note, because I'm gonna hit on hope, because at the beginning of the show I was like, I want to talk about these two topics, and even the way that this conversation's led. But for everybody listening, just on that empathetic listening model, it's not just to your business, it's also to your children. It's to your
Oh,
partner.
amen.
It's to your friends.
Hmm.
It's to the
Hmm.
barista at the coffee shop. Like, it's
Yes,
everywhere. And
everybody.
it's
Yes.
also, to Romy's point, a muscle that can be worked, that can shift your state into this, and then you end up starting to
Hmm.
operate this way. But it's an invitation to use it everywhere, and it really slows down the pace of life and brings
Hmm.
presence, which is what we're
Hmm.
all craving, to be
Hmm.
here. And even for my high and low dopamine people, it will help regulate your nervous system and keep your
Yes.
pace as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
And
Go
and
ahead.
people won't be repelled by you if you're low dopamine or high dopamine, because you're empathetically listening. And so,
Mm.
there isn't this power control issue of someone trying to dominate you because you're low dopamine, or someone being turned off by you because you're high dopamine and your energy is too intense. Instead, you're empathetic listening, and it just creates a psychologically and physically safe space to be.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. Now this transitions, because for everybody listening, I'm just going to give you my plumb line that goes through this, or my keel in the water of, like, the first podcast. We talked about your busy brain and how to understand it and navigate it, to, for lack of better analogies, to take control of the vehicle
Hmm.
that you own
Hmm.
and learn the owner's manual, to now, when you have an understanding of it or an awareness of it, that at the beginning of the show we talk about how to set your day up to win, to
Hmm.
boost your brain, to get you
Hmm.
into the ideal state, to then take that into the world,
Hmm.
to have empathetic listening and
Hmm.
empathy in your business, in your relationships, in your friendships, in your family, and in every interaction that you can, which leads to the third point, which is the science of hope.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about the science of hope.
It came up with, people would ask me what would happen when you, Romy, healed your burnout and you did the brain shift protocol for yourself. I was like, I became hopeful about my life again. And that feeling when hope has been taken away from you, which is where I was. And hope became this like anchoring. And I do a hope holders meditation at the end of every one of my keynote lectures. And then I just started to look around the world and see the state of hopelessness that we are in. And I look at people who still walk through the day of hope, and the researcher in me, because that's what I do as a hobby. It also is why I'm socially awkward on dates, is you can actually teach people how to hope. There's a scientific way. And that is what I've been researching. But not only when I meet individuals like yourself, coaching, George, or on a podcast, but I call it the hope gap in workplace cultures of, why do we have a mental health crisis? Why do we have burnout? Is because there's a hope gap. I hoped to go to work and make a difference. I hoped that my boss would see me. I hoped I would get a promotion. And there's the gap of operationally what's really happening. And there's a hope gap. And I firmly believe the next phase in healing workplace cultures is to bring hope back into the workplace. So I've been noodling on this theory for a year as I've been on my book tour. And then Gallup, and if you're not familiar with Gallup, they do a
Well, that's
lot of
the strength assessment I took yesterday, is
the
Gallup's.
strength assessments.
Yeah.
Yep, they do the strength assessment. They also do a lot of surveys around workplace engagement, workplace wellness, everything workplace culture related, all of that. And they asked, when you're a leader, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or you're a leader in a structured for profit, nonprofit company, what are the four characteristics that people wanted out of leader? And at the top by a long stretch was hope, then trust, and then empathy. And I was like, whoa, like it is here. And I am noodling on ideas that will likely be the second book. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud because I'm kind of tired from the
Just
first
did
book
it.
tour.
You just said it. You
I
just
just
said it.
said it, and I said it with as your auntie. And so it's going out in the universe in your positive community. But that is what we're teaching in our keynote lectures on building a workplace culture of, what does hope look like?
Hmm. It's so aligned with, even like, I have an incredible business partner, Stacy, I love, and we're teaching high achieving visionaries and entrepreneurs that, like, if you want to scale, you have to have self trust, then team trust to earn tribe trust. But you can't do that until you exhale and heal to
Mm-hmm.
be able to be the example. And even what's so funny is, like, my Bible, I have a John Maxwell leadership Bible. What you
Mm-hmm.
just said,
Mm-hmm.
100% what you just said, is the takeaway of the entire Old Testament, is the thing that you have to always come back to as a leader,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
hope and faith in a vision.
Hope and faith and a vision. And I want to say this too, because we both have global audiences. This is true in every religious text, every sacred
Everyone.
text. And this is also, my talk is based on positive psychology. So for the people that identify as atheist or agnostic, it
Mhm.
is everyone. This is like positive psychology. You have the agency and the pathway to set the goals. And that is what hope is.
1,000%, because it's even, and this is where, like, I own, because I was accused of being new age for a long time. I love you no matter what and wherever you are, but I
Yeah.
spent my whole life in every bucket: personal development, brain science, trauma therapy, all of these things. And it's the through line all the way through, is like
Always this hope.
having faith and hope in this vision, but also on that part of trust, is
Yeah.
trust is earned through embodiment and examples, right? Like, our kids
Mhm.
don't listen to what we say, they watch what we do. And even
Exactly.
this empathetic listening. And
Yes.
then when
Yeah.
you invest in yourself to build that trust,
Mhm.
you also are required by default to understand what it's like on the other side, which leads to this
Amen.
empathy and
Amen.
being
Amen
able
to
to
that.
put yourself in that bucket.
When for people like I delineate, I think if you want to dial hope up and go in, it's people who have faith, right? But
Yep.
then
Yep.
you and I both know people in our spiritual communities who would tell you they're men and women of faith and they lack hope in today's world.
Yep.
So I separate the two of them out. And
Yeah.
so does positive psychology as well. But for people that have that dosing themselves in their brain. They live a life of empathy. And then you add faith into it, it's like you're just beelining to this place of hope. And so when people ask me, Dr. Romie, what does it mean to be a chief wellness officer? This is the second company I've been a chief wellness officer in. I often say that I'm the hope whisperer, or I'm the hope holder. If an individual or an executive comes to me with a hope, I will hold it in my heart for them and I will help them get from point A to point B with whatever tools I have. And same for a team. If they have a hope to hit a certain goal, like I will be that chief hope holder. I think sometimes you need to know people are holding hope for you. And this is where I'll end this podcast in is I remember being in that dark place without hope when I was in the surgeon's office. I tell the story in my book. And the surgeon stopped and showed empathy and said, Romie, I'm here and I care and we're going to get you through the surgery. And I was sobbing unconsolably. And then my father just kind of clicked up. Of course, beta, we have hope. And he, as a man of faith, started to activate a network, a global network of his friends and colleagues and our aunties and uncles who were of every faith of the globe to go to your temple, synagogue, church, mosque, please pray for Romie. And then my mentor, Dr. Wanamaker, who's also in the book, I called him and he was like, I'm going to put you on the Sunday prayer list at our church.
Mm.
And that I had three hope holders. So I'm going to ask everyone here, who are your three hope holders? That you have a hope, and I'm going to model it with George right now and be vulnerable and find the three people that whenever they see you, they're going to remind you that I am holding hope that this is going to happen for you. And by the way, be somebody else's hope holder. So, George, can I model it for you?
1,000%.
All of my goals professionally came true, every entrepreneur's dream last year, and I continue to scale my mission. But one hope I'm still holding on to is that the universe gives me a second chance at love and I find my life partner. And I have opened up the space to do it. So, will you be one of my hope holders?
1,000%. And keep that nail color, girl, because that nail color looks so good on you. So good. It can only help. It can only help.
Thank
100%.
you. Thank you. And that is it. And then I have two other hope holders who are holding this intention for me. One is my amazing therapist, Karen, who's been on every journey from post-divorce and relationships in between, is one of my dear, dear hope holders who believes. And then there's another Karen who's one of my best friends, and her husband are hope holders. And every time they see me, they just believe like you are meant to have a life partner. You are meant to be cared for. You are meant to have someone to go home to, Romie, so you can go back out in the world and be Dr. Romie. That's me modeling hope holder for you. And thank you, George, for being one of my hope holders.
Always, always, girl. And you know what? Because this is such a beautiful place to land. For everybody listening, the only, like, if I could put former Marine George on and be like, I would drill this into you if I couldn't force you to do it, is I invite everybody to share a hope and request somebody be your hope holder after this episode.
Please do. And I just want to volunteer Auntie Dr. Romie and George to you. We're Dr. Romie. I'm Dr. Romie on Instagram. George, what are you?
It's George Bryant. I love how you drive my podcast. I was just about to do this. I
Yes.
love you. Drive.
Yes. And
Drive.
honestly, please let George and I have the honor of being your hope holders. Send it to us in the DM. That will be me responding to you.
Yeah. You can even group DM us. Just put
Yes.
Dr. Romie and me in the same one and we'll group attack hope hold you.
Yeah.
I'm so in for that. And like there was so much profound stuff shared in this, but of everything, the thing that like tickles my heart the most and makes me emotional is that for everything that you share, if it wasn't for hope holders in my life, I wouldn't be alive. If there wasn't that one person that leaned in and said, hey, you've got this, or you can make this, and sharing it makes it real and witnessed. And by the way, I'll help you with the book too. I got things to share with you, girl. We'll get this other book out of you because I feel like the science of hope is required now. Like busy brain, then the science of hope. We're going to have to add the empathy book in the middle. So we have the series.
Got it.
Yeah.
Deal.
Boom, boom, boom. We'll get them done. And for everybody listening, Dr. Romie is so much like me, and she really is the homie and auntie who just exudes love. But whatever resonated today, besides hope and besides the morning, just do me a favor and go thank her. She's on LinkedIn. I'm not. I'm banned for life. But
What?
Instagram.
Okay,
Oh yeah, it's not even a good story, but it did work really well.
We're not going to delete. We're not going to talk about it now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
connect with me on LinkedIn we get it.
I'll fill you in, but connect with her on LinkedIn. On Instagram is my preferred. But in this hope holder, in this empathy, in the world that we're in right now, where everything feels like it's ants in a jars being shaken against each other, a minute of consciousness and intention goes a long way. Just taking the time to send that message, to send the thank you. So whatever resonated today, whatever landed, whatever you feel called and safe to share or excited to share, just please send her my love and send it to her, and take this same thing and bring it into the world, because that's the way that we change the conversation and we make the world brighter, and we bring possibility with all the things that we talked about today. And so, girl, as always, like, you have a forever seat on the podcast. Whenever you get a new spark or idea or a new book idea, we'll just flush it right here.
You're a brilliant coach, and thank you for being one of my hope holders. It's an honor to be your auntie. I am looking forward to having Indian food with you and Kate.
Yeah.
Such an honor. Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
So for everybody listening, this has been another episode of the Mind of George show. So wherever you are, whatever you do, remember that relationships will always beat algorithms. And based on this episode today, the most important one is with yourself, and then taking empathy and bringing it to everybody else so that we can create hope in the world and start to change the conversations that are being had. So we'll either see you in the next episode or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, we're out.